Hello everyone and welcome back to BrickCats. Today I am reviewing Fukusaku's TIE Interceptor model being sold on Rebrickable. As always, subscribing and or giving this review a like is always an awesome way to support the channel, and your support means more great mock reviews in the future. The TIE Interceptor was an upgrade from the standard TIE fighter and was faster, more maneuverable, and more heavily armed. The Interceptor's main visual feature are the dagger-shaped angled wings on both top and bottom that borrow the design idea from Darth Vader's TIE Advanced. The Interceptors first appeared in Return of the Jedi and have since been featured elsewhere in canon, such as in Star Wars Rebels. LEGO has released a couple of TIE Interceptors, including Major Von Regs from the Resistance TV series, and the Black and Blue Interceptors from 2006 in the Playscale, and the first UCS set all the way back in year 2000. In my reviews, I offer my opinions on aesthetics and model features, parts issues you might want to look out for, the build experience, the model's integrity, and last but not least, I offer my closing thoughts on the model with pricing information. If you're watching this review, I assume you have bought the instructions or are interested in buying them. I also assume a basic level of familiarity with Brickling's ordering system and LEGO nomenclature. My disclaimer on this and all my mock reviews is that I only use genuine LEGO bricks, and I always purchase the instructions. Lastly, I create these reviews for my own personal enjoyment and in the hopes that my advice will make your experience more enjoyable and or less expensive. Fukusaku's Interceptor is divided into three main sections, the cockpit and the two wings. As you might expect, the two wings are symmetrical, and they're angled as close to any reliable source that I can find without breaking out my protractor. I really like the detail in the fins here on the central pylon, as long as the creation of the targeting sensors right in the middle here. The wings themselves are built with what I'll call a more traditional plate and tile method, and to add some additional texture, Fukusaku uses a lot of these 1x1 black tiles to simulate the solar array in the spaces that don't have studs or that require some reinforcement with longer tiles. The wing's long diagonal has a really nice edge assembly that obviously fits perfectly, but it's also pretty cool how he fits it in there, as it only uses one traditional stud connection, but it's still very sturdy. The wings connect to the central section here with clips and bars, and there is a bracket with a tile snuggling right up against the angle to the slope piece to hold the angle. The inboard side of the wings is mostly anti-studs, but the color scheme with the gray sections is nicely maintained, and there are some inverted tiles here to break up the anti-stud look as well. My absolute favorite part about this model is how Fukusaku uses these 11L hoses to fill in the gaps between the wings and the central section here. Without these hoses, I don't think I would have thought twice about the gap, but honestly looking at it now, I can't imagine it any other way. And I can't imagine this is a legal connection, but it fits way too well. It's not loose or tight, like if I'm slide it here, it just has enough resistance to make it look like it's on purpose. And I know this is probably a completely irrational thing to get excited about, but I really love this. And to show you the difference between hose and no hose, I have them in on this side, and I just took them out on this side. So I think you can really see what a difference it makes, especially if I slide one in here so you can contrast with the top and the bottom there. So very cool usage of the hose piece. The cockpit eyeball is outlined with the 3x3x2 round corner bricks, and the cockpit comfortably seats a minifigure. You can see my TIE pilot in there. To get him into this cockpit, the top section right under the dome comes off pretty easily, so you can set him in there. And I think this is meant to be loose, so you can take it off and put it back on fairly easily. The pilot has his targeting computer and some other scopes on the other side, and some transred detailing that you can't really see unless you, build it. On the other side of the cockpit, there is this dark bluish gray piece, which adds a bit of greebling, which is film accurate. On mine, I had the 6x6 printed dish left over from all the other TIE fighters that I've built, and I definitely think this looks the best, but the plain light bluish gray disc is specified here to save on cost. And one thing I did switch out immediately from the specifications for the parts, these 1x1 corner tiles are specified in light bluish gray, but I think black looks better just because it helps round out the interior of the cockpit's color. Without those, you kind of see the edges of these 3x3x2 corner bricks all around the cockpit. The rear of the fighter is pretty nondescript, but I do like how Fukusaku only has the red stud on the 1x1 red plate showing, and that's outlined with the neck bracket piece. This model definitely would look better if I had the 5x5 light bluish gray dish instead of this dark bluish gray one, but the light bluish gray one is like $13, so I passed on that. The support pylons to either side of the cockpit have pretty good shaping. They might be a little blocky, but truly there's not a lot of space to work with here. So there's just some slopes and these pentagon tiles here. And those transition into these minifigure large weapon barrel pieces right before it runs into the wing. Finally, you saw it earlier, but this is the included stand, and the entire model sits on this 10x10 trans clear dish on top of a column of 2x2 round bricks. And I do like this aesthetic because there's so much black and gray in this model already that I kind of feel like a black stand doesn't distinguish between the stand and the model very well and maybe takes the focus off a little bit. But it holds the model at a pretty good height and overall looks good. Fukusaku's TIE Interceptor looks amazing when you see it up close, and an experienced builder can tell that he took extra care to include some really nice details on this. This model contains 144 elements and a total of 1,055 pieces, which includes the pieces for the stand. The cockpit windscreen specified, part 18675 PB09, is surprisingly expensive on Bricklink. A much cheaper alternative is 18675 PB02, which is functionally exactly the same. For the life of me, I can't figure out why the PB09 version is so expensive, so if someone knows, please share. Sadly, I don't have one of the PB02 pieces for a direct comparison, but PB02 is the one that came on the newest TIE Fighter. The cone 1 1/6 by 1 1/6 by 2/3, or the Fez piece, part 85975 in light bluish gray, is significantly more expensive and less common than other colors. So a neutral color like black would work here, as you can't really see them anyway, and obviously they're right above the cockpit, or the pilot's head inside the cockpit. The 2x2 inverted tiles in black and light bluish gray, part 11203, in general aren't terrible on price, but they can easily be substituted for the 2x2 plate, part 3022, in the same color to save on cost. Same for the 1x3 inverted tiles in black, part 35459, which are interchangeable with the 1x3 plate in black, part 3623. If you're going to change these out, make sure you do it in multiples of 4. In other words, instead of 32 2x2 inverted tiles, you should go with 28, 24, 20, etc. to maintain the symmetry in the wings. So what you want to do is you want like all of this forwardmost tile to be switched out, followed by this one, or whatever. You just want to make it symmetrical, or it'll look a little strange. My last straight substitution recommendation is the tile round 2x2 with black Star Wars TIE Fighter pattern, part 14769 PB025. These tend to be a little expensive, usually over $1. So substituting the plain 2x2 round tile in light bluish gray or dark bluish gray, part 14769, saves on the part, and you also might reduce your store count as the plain tile is a lot more common. As usual, I will put in my standard advice to at least consider sourcing a few of the elements directly from LEGO, either through their Bricks and Pieces service or from Pick-a-Brick. The following list of elements was significantly cheaper directly from LEGO, usually by 40 or 50%. And buying a large amount of parts from LEGO not only gives you a lower shipping rate, which is $2.95 for bricks and pieces, or possibly free if you order enough from Pick-a-Brick, but it also tends to reduce your store count by 1 or 2. And also a hint, if you order from bricks and pieces and your order would otherwise meet the cost threshold, I think it's $35 to get free shipping. If you add even just one part from Pick-a-Brick, the whole order will ship for free. In mid-February 2022, Bricks and Pieces is taking between 5 and 6 weeks to ship orders and another 1 to 2 weeks for delivery, which is certainly inconvenient, but their backlog of holiday orders should clear out pretty soon, and I have a feeling this will get better to the normal 2 or 3 weeks for shipping. That's 2 or 3 weeks from the time you order to the time it ships. Pick-a-Brick has a smaller selection, but their turnaround times have been really good lately, just about 5 business days from order to delivery in the US. And the more you order direct, the better your overall cost savings are likely to be. Finally, you are ordering a lot of these 1x1 black tiles. I think the look would be different and not a good way if you tried to combine some of these into larger ones. For example, you could use 9 2x2 tiles to maintain the look here a little bit, but 2x2s don't really work up here because you're going to have to use like longer tiles to fill in the spaces that the 2x2s won't fit in. So even though it is a lot of 1x1s, I do recommend getting all 200 some odd. The building instructions contain 289 steps, and each part or subassembly to be connected is outlined in red. The instructions are clear and easy to follow. I did not have any issues with the viewing angle or connections that didn't make sense. The opposite sides of the wings are marked with a multiplier so you can build them both in parallel, which is very nice. And total, the build took me about 3 hours without sorting, aside from my bag of 1x1 tiles, which all came from the same place, so those were already separate. And as you might expect, placing all the 1x1 tiles is the most monotonous part of the build, but they're broken up into manageable portions, so it's not too bad. Overall, this is pretty fun. This model can easily hold up to casual swooshing. Since the wings are not locked with stud connections, I don't recommend picking this up by the wings, but the logical grip on the cockpit is fine and it's not going to break anything. You can kind of hear some suspicious creaking if I try and lift it up by the wings. So you just grab it like you normally would. And like I said, casual swooshing is just fine. The wings are only held on with a Technic axle and 2 Technic half pins. So too strenuous of a barrel roll means that the wing might fly off, so be careful with that. And I can show you that it's relatively easy to remove these. So you can see the axle and the 2 half pins there are what secures the wings. So I'll try to get this to... There you go. On the flip side, the wing is very solid, so you just saw it fall and it's not going to smash into a million pieces. In general, the plate and tile construction is a little more stable than a brick-built wing, for example. So overall, this model is pretty solidly built, and I'm not really worried about large sections of the model just shattering if I handle it. And as a bonus, it does sit up straight on the bottom of its wings instead of rotating forward or tilting forward. As for the stand, while I do like how it looks, I'm not sold on its stability. I definitely got some uncomfortable wobbles with this thing, and the stud connection on the brick doesn't exactly inspire confidence. It's kind of easy to bump the fighter, and if it rolls forward, it's definitely going to fall. So I'll show you here. So it's pretty easy to break that like that. And unfortunately, I'm not really sure what we could do about this because the dome on the bottom isn't exactly held in there particularly strongly either. It's just a Technic axle connection and some studs as well. So there's not a whole lot of room to modify this without removing the bottom dish and building it with plates or something like that. You can make this column 4 or 5 bricks shorter if you change out the Technic axles for a shorter one. This lessens the chance that if it falls, it's going to break in a major way if the fighter hits your desk after falling off the stand. But as specified, like I said, the stand is okay as long as this is in a place where it's not going to get bumped or the surface that you're putting it on is not going to get bumped either. I reviewed Fukusaku's X-Wing late last summer and was highly impressed, so I was really looking forward to this build and I was definitely not disappointed. I highly recommend Fukusaku's TIE Interceptor. It looks really great on its stand, the build is fun, it's very solid for a mock, and it has some really great details like those hoses, and a few others that builders, experienced and novice alike, can appreciate. When I ran the Bricklink algorithm in mid-February 2022, I got 5 stores and $154 before shipping and tax, or around $184 including shipping and tax, and this is without any substitutions. Just substituting out the cockpit dropped it down to 4 stores and $147 before shipping and tax, or about $171 after shipping and tax. And I have a feeling you could get the total cost right around $150, including shipping and tax, if you bought the pieces in my list directly from LEGO, as Bricklink Results returned a store charging $2 for the 3x3x2 corner brick when it's 52 cents directly from LEGO, for example. The instructions cost $9 and are available on Rebrickable, and this is an extremely reasonable price in my opinion. A link to the instructions as well as Fukusaku's Instagram will be in the description. Thanks as always for taking the time to watch my review of Fukusaku's TIE Interceptor. If you've built this model, you have something to share that I left out, or have a question about something I didn't cover, please leave them below in the comments. Also, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, or following me on Instagram. I hope to see you back next time.